So a few days ago, Dejounte Murray went down with an ACL tear and should be out for the whole season. Kristaps had a torn ACL last year. He was out for at least a year, and it could be like 16 months. Derrick Rose had an ACL tear. He was also out for 18 months. So I think it's pretty safe to say that, unfortunately, Dejounte Murray will not return for the 2019 season for the Spurs. So what do the Spurs do at point guard to replace him? So last year, Dejounte Murray made the all-defensive second team at only 21 years old, and with Tony Parker gone, many expected Dejounte to have a breakout season as the Spurs' starting point guard. With him down, though, who steps up and who becomes the starting point guard? I think Patty Mills is a very obvious answer as he is the best backup point guard on the team at this point. Besides him, you have Derek White, and that's pretty much it. That's really the only two options. If you're starting Patty Mills, it really helps with the spacing, which is one of the things the Spurs definitely will struggle with this season, especially in their starting lineup. Mills is also pretty bad on defense, and it would certainly hurt the Spurs starting defense to start him, which is unfortunately another area that the Spurs lack. Their starting lineup on defense is pretty horrible. If you start Mills, he's a bad defender. DeRozan's a bad defender. Gay's a bad defender. Aldridge is a bad defender. And Gasol's, he's solid. I'd say, average, above average defender. It's a pretty bad defensive starting lineup. So you would think, Dejounte Murray originally would make that so much better. But without him, who do the Spurs have that could, I guess kind of replace him defensively? Definitely not Patty Mills. So you look to Derek White. Derek White, I believe, was a rookie last year. Didn't get many minutes. He's not that good of a player, but he's an improved defender over Patty Mills, which isn't saying much, but he's an improved defender. He shot like 60% from three last season or something like that. I mean, I think it was like 20 total attempts, so I wouldn't really, care too much about that. But he's a solid shooter. He's a, below average defender. He's just not that good. He's just not a good playmaker. He's not a good scorer in general. He's really not good at much besides shooting and defense. And even defense, he's not that good. He's below average, but a step up over Mills. So should the Spurs start? Should the Spurs start Derek White at point guard over Patty Mills? Probably not. I think that'd be a bad move. I think starting Derek White 82 games over Patty Mills just does not work. It's just a clear talent downgrade. So what should they do? I think one of their options is starting Derek White when the matchup needs him to. Essentially, if the Spurs are going up against a good offensive-minded point guard, then starting Derek White is going to be the move. Someone like Steph Curry. Although, I mean, against Curry, neither of them are going to do anything. But, Derek White is at least going to do more than Patty Mills. When you're going up against not that good of a starting point guard, I don't know, say DJ Augustine from the Magic or Jerry Grant, whoever starts. I think Patty Mills is capable of defending DJ Augustine. It's not that big of an issue, putting Mills on Augustine. I think that would probably be what the Spurs do. However, there's a lot of talented point guards in the league, so it would be starting they'd be starting Derek White a lot if they did it like that. So maybe it's just for like the top 10 or so point guards, which I think, in no order: Curry, Westbrook, Chris Paul, Kyrie, John Wall, Damian Lillard, Lowry, Ben Simmons, Conley, and Walker. I think against those 10, they may start Derek White. Against the other 20, they'd start, or against the other 19 actually, they start Patty Mills. That could be another option. Another option is they make a move to acquire a point guard. I think this is the best option for them. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think it's a good option. The first name I want to bring up is Patrick Beverley. I think Beverley might be available from the Clippers as they just have so many guards. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Teodosic at point guard, along with Lou Will, Avery Bradley, and Jerome Robinson. Jerome Robinson at shooting guard, so they could get rid of one of their guards. They could get rid of two of their guards, honestly, and still be perfectly fine with their depth. The problem is the asking price is going to be too high. Beverly is the perfect guy to replace Murray. He's really the only guy in the league available that's going to replace what he does defensively. I don't think he's better defensively, but I think he's definitely up there. You could make a case for him being as good. The problem is, again, his asking price is just too high, or the Clippers' asking price. The Clippers would probably want a first round pick in exchange for Beverly, especially for the Spurs, who are desperate for a point guard at this point. I just don't think the Spurs are giving up a first round pick for a 1 year rental that's not going to win them really anything. At best, they win a playoff series with him. He's also a free agent after the season, so he could just walk for nothing and the Spurs lose a first round pick. I don't think Greg Popovich would do that. He's just way too smart to do that. The next name I want to bring up is Spencer Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie, another, solid defender, but much better on offense than uh, Derek White. He's a solid shooter, great playmaker, capable of running an offense. He's a much better defender than Patty Mills, and he's probably no, he is a better defender than Derek White. He's an average defender. The problem is, I don't think the Nets are going to get rid of him. Even though they do have a lot of guards, they have, of course, D'Angelo Russell, him, Shabazz Napier, Alan Crabb, Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, if you consider him a guard. They also have Zahn and Musa. I don't think he'll be playing shooting guard, but it's another, guard slash forward for them. I do think they could get rid of one of their guards. I don't think it's going to be Dinwiddie. However, the Nets are going to have D'Angelo Russell, Rondae Hollis Jefferson, and Spencer Dinwiddie all on restricted, are all going to be restricted free agents after this season. So they may look to get rid of Hollis Jefferson or Dinwiddie because that's going to be a lot of money to pay all three of them. I just don't think the Nets would get rid of him, and if they were going to get rid of him, it'd be for a first round pick like Beverly. And again, I just don't think the Spurs are going to get rid of a first round pick for a guy that's at best going to win them one playoff series, and probably not. Now, the last guy I want to mention, and the most likely trade, is Tyus Jones. We all know Tom Thibodeau hates Tyus Jones. He refuses to play him over Derrick Rose, even though, Tyus is probably better than Derrick Rose, or at least he fits way better on the Timberwolves than Rose. The Wolves just don't need another high usage guy. And he's a great guy for the Spurs. He's not good at anything, to be honest. I mean, he's an average playmaker, maybe below average playmaker, below average shooter. He's an average, below average defender. The one thing he's really good at, and actually one of the best in the league at, and the reason I picked him for the Spurs to get is because he's incredibly good at limiting turnovers. I believe he had the third or fourth highest assist to turnover ratio in the league last year, and that's why I think he's perfect for the Spurs. Next to DeRozan and Aldridge, they already have two established stars. They don't need another guy that's, trying to do much offensively. They just need a low usage guy who's not going to create any problems, who's just going to stand on the perimeter and do a little bit of everything pretty much. And that's what Tyus Jones can do. Now, I think he's perfect also because the Wolves aren't asking for much, or at least they won't ask for much for Tyus Jones. Probably a pair of second round picks, or maybe even just a second in Shemezi Metu. They could just swap, the Spurs could swap one of their end of the roster guys for Tyus Jones and probably include a second round pick, and that'd be it. Again, Tom Thibodeau hates him. He's not getting minutes this year. He probably won't get any minutes in the future on the Wolves. He'll actually probably leave the Wolves in free agency, but he'll probably stay with the Spurs. He probably wants to be coached by Greg Popovich. It's certainly something I think a lot of people would like. Now, to recap, I think the Spurs have four options. They could start Mills at point guard, start Derek White at point guard for the defense, start them on a matchup basis. White faces the top 10 point guards, Mills starts against everyone else. Or they can make a move to acquire another point guard. The names I brought up, Patrick Beverly, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Tyus Jones. I think Tyus Jones is probably the most likely to happen. However, I don't think the Spurs are going to make a move. I think they'll probably stick with Patty Mills the whole season unless some big problem arises. And yeah, that's the end of the video. What are the Spurs going to do at point guard now that Dejounte Murray is down with an ACL injury, likely for the whole year?